if money's tight, and by the way, if money's tight, that's the number one reason you need life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
That's the struggle. A lot of people are like, money's too tight. My mother would have been the best candidate ever.
Asset.
You have the most to lose. If money's tight with you alive, what's going to happen with you dead?
What's going on, millionaires? It's your guy, Kai Speaks, back for another episode of the $1 Million Mind Podcast. And here with my co-host, Heavy House Jazz. How you feeling, Jazz?
Hey. You know I'm always blessed and grateful to be here.
Blessed by the best, never stressed by the rest. Man, I love it, man. Jazz, we've been working up some really amazing things, and I'm really excited about this conversation because the guests we have in the building, it's like perfect time. It's like the stars is always aligning for us lately, right?
Yep.
And like the timing is perfect because we just had Paviel in the building a couple weeks ago talking about the trust fund babies and the life insurance. And I felt like who better to kind of follow up this conversation than a prolific brother like the one we have in the building today. We have a former life insurance company owner, but because he just recently sold the business, which is cool because I've never met anyone who has sold a business that built a life insurance company, but any type of business. So this is an interesting conversation. But we also learned he also sold several other businesses, built other business from real estate to waste management, all different types of stuff. So, I mean, without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest. We have Shawn in the building. Tell our listeners, Shawn, about like kind of where you got started and, I mean, how you got this beefed up resume that you have right now.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate you both. Got really cool energy, got really cool stories, and you actually just good people. So I'm really honored to be on, and I mean that because that is like I think about what y'all are doing now, and I think about what you're building and what it'll look like in a couple of years. So good for you, man, and good for your listeners. So my story's pretty simple, to be really honest with you. My mom raised me and my brother. My mom worked really, really, really hard. Single mom, 3 jobs. I went through high school. My mom made me go to college. I was raised where my mom didn't. You know, I always used to say my mom didn't put me in timeout. She hit me hard enough where I was timed out, but I wasn't in timeout. Like I was raised like an adult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she told me to go to college. I said go to college. Go to college, play baseball. It was the only thing I ever wanted to do. And then I was like, I'll see how far that takes me, and then I'll go get a job. I was working at UPS while I was in college, unloading trucks in the morning. I used to drink a lot. So I'd drink all night long, go unload trucks, sweat it out of me, go to baseball practice, go to class, go to baseball practice, go back and do it all over again. And somewhere in the first year or two in college, I fell in love with social work. I was a business major for a very short period of time, but I am like if I cuss, is that bad in the show?
No,
I won't
speak
cuss
your
at
language.
all. Okay.
Speak your language.
I got to ask. You got to ask. His name, you know what I mean? You got to be respectful. I don't mess with people that are freaking lying to me about what they're doing. So I was a business major, and I realized that these fools had never been in business. They were just full-time teachers, which is fine, except they couldn't actually help me. So I went to my academic advisor, and I'll never forget. She said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I have no idea. I'm just coming here to not get beaten by my mom and play baseball. Like I'm just really not that deep. If I get a degree, I get a degree. If I don't, I don't. But I'm like, what do you want? Like I need to be in a major where the people teaching are actually doing it." And she looked me in the eye and she said, "How about social work?" And I said, "Well, why do you recommend that?" She goes, "Because all of the professors are actually full-time in the field and they come here and teach."
Okay.
And I was like, all right, let me check it out. So you know what, to this day, I'm always like grateful because she was actually a business professor when I was talking to her. She wasn't offended. She didn't yell and scream. She didn't go like, have a temper tantrum. She was like, I understand how you're feeling. Why don't you look at something else? And I went to my first social work class. I'm like, dude, I love this. So when I graduated college, I realized pretty early on I wasn't going to get paid to play baseball, millions of dollars. I played football in high school. I thought about going back to college, play football. I was older, even slower. So I was like, let's not do that. I got undergraduate degree in social work, master's degree in criminal justice and psychology. And I went to work at the state. I was in the police academy for a very short period of time, 4.5 months. I never wanted to be in the police academy. I got arrested a lot of times growing up. And by the way, that's also true. So when you go on podcasts, people lie to you. That's weird. Like everybody has the same story. They're like, yo, I was a drug dealer. It's like, no, he wasn't. Yo, I went to jail. No, he didn't. I got punched in the face, had 50 stitches. He's never been punched in the face in his life. If he got in a fight today, it'd be his first fight ever. So I got in a lot of trouble growing up for fighting guys, drinking, using drugs, doing a bunch of stuff. So I figured I'm never going to get a job. Well, I went to the police academy. And I got in. I don't even know how I got in. So I'm like, y'all have seen my like I'm here, right? Like you can see, like I've been in that holding cell. Like you all are interviewing me, and after a while, it wasn't definitely gonna be a good fit for me. I didn't like taking direction from people. The way I believed, and if it's right or wrong, I was raised that the men around me could tell me what to do if they could kick my ass. And if
This
they
the
couldn't,
only guy that
and
don't
if,
have me cracking up.
and if they couldn't, they couldn't.
Yeah.
So like, I was like, why is he yelling at me? Because he's got a higher rank. I'll beat the shit out of him in like half a second. Like, why do I have to listen to him? So I was a terrible fit. They told me I was a terrible fit. My buddy's like, yo, why don't you come work at the state, work with abused and neglected children? And I was like, dude, I'd love to help kids. I love kids. You know what I mean? Like, and I had a raise. I didn't have a carry gun. They weren't going to shoot at me. No, I wasn't going to shoot at them. So I was like, dude, pretty good deal. So I took that job 14 years. Probably 7-8 years into it, my mother got a real estate license when I was like 9 or 10. And my mom never had a dress up like a professional. She worked bartender. She cleaned. She worked in a hospital place, hospital plant, work inside. And she got a real estate license. And I was like really proud of my mom. I was like, so cool. Like, she was so excited. Now, when you live in areas where nobody has money, most of the people are negative. So growing up, most of my mom, like I didn't let my mom's friends watch me when I was real young. Back then, you didn't have a babysitter when you were like 10. But when I was like 4 or 5 or 6, because they were meaner than my mom, most of them. But they were always negative about everything.
Right.
And I'll never forget, she got a real estate license and got going, then she quit. And I remember saying, like, why did you quit? Like, why didn't you keep going? And she's like, well, it's not as easy as you think it is. It's really hard to make money. She went into all the reasons that she believed she couldn't make money. And I'm like, one day I'm going to get a real estate license. I don't even know if I want one, but I'm going to get one because she got one and quit, and I'm going to get one. So I'm a real estate license while I worked at the state, started selling. I was like #1 salesperson at my company. And then I was like, people started recruiting me, which was the first time outside of sports that anybody was like, yo, why don't you come over here? And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, shit, why don't you all pay me? So I started negotiating with them. And they'd be like, why are you leaving the company? I'm like, they just gave me $100,000 to come to their company. I'm going over there to their company. Then 3 years later, I'd be like, yo, they're going to give me 100. Like, if you want to keep me, you go to Pat. Like, I'm moving. I'm a free agent, bro. I'm moving. So I kept doing it, but I kept my job at the state. And I was telling you all before we got started, you know, the administration changed. I didn't like what was happening. I always told the parents, when I started the state job, I was 21. I had no kids. And I think the best way to work with people is to be really, really honest with them. So I'd knock on a door. I remember knocking on this door, this lady. I was like my second appointment. And she opened the door. She looked at me. I looked at her. I'm 21 years old. She's like 45 with like 7 kids. She said, who the hell are you? I said, I'm the worker they sent out of your house. She said, boy, I have underwear older than you. And I said, they didn't teach me what to say to that in training, but I need to come in. But I never forget. I said to her, listen, I don't have any kids. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what the stress is like to have kids and not have any money. I probably am still drunk from last night. I was very honest. I'm just being honest with you. If you're looking out for your kids, I'll be the biggest advocate you ever have. But if you're doing things that harms them, legitimately puts them in imminent danger, you won't like me. But I'm always going to be honest with you. And I did really well there for a long time. I loved my job. And then in 2008, I got into life insurance. And I worked for a guy for 5 years. And after 5 years, I was like, yo, your plan's messed up. I don't make enough money here. Like, I went on stage. They do these big events. And I was announced as the #1 income earner. And the problem was I wasn't making any money. And then it hit me like, if I'm #1, y'all are screwed. Because I make, like, I don't have any money. And if I'm #1, so at that point in time, I said, I'm going to launch my own company. And I'm going to put the clients first. All the clients sell life insurance to. The agents has to be great for the client, great for the agent. It can't hurt me. Because what I hated about all corporate America that I saw was, it was what's great for them and then what will you live with. And I'm like, what if we flip it? Like, I met a guy that owns Arthur Blank, who's guy owns Falcons, was one of the guys who launched Home Depot, and I paid to be at a meeting with him probably 14 years ago. And I'll never forget, I said, sir, I'd ask you a question. If I want to launch a company, what would be your biggest piece of advice? He said, a little bit of a lot will become more than enough. You don't need to yank, like, just a little bit of a lot will become enough. So I launched a company in 2013. Company did about 11 million the first year, and this last year we did 750 million in paid premium. So, and then I was approached a few years back. I never gave up equity in the company. I never gave up equity in any of my companies early on, because equity's king if you're going to go.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, when people want to give, I always tell people, if somebody wants to give you equity in their company, they ain't making no money. People come like, you want to be on the board of the company? We'll give you 25% equity. I'm like, dude, that means you have no value. What do you want to give me the equity? I haven't done anything yet. And I was able to do a deal. So, yeah, I've sold 3 companies for in excess of $100 million plus. It's been great. Life is good. But I never set out. The money is fine, but my goal was to truly impact people's lives. So that's a short story of kind of how I got here. And I don't know if my resume is good or not, but that's it.
Man, I want to go back to the advice of a little bit of a lot is kind of like all you need.
Yeah.
Did he mean it as far as like, because I'm thinking it back to sales, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are trying to swing for the fences and get these really big deals. When he's saying,
no, what he meant is when you run the company, the great question, when you run the company, he said, you don't have to take everything from everybody. Like, you can put people at a higher compensation than they get anywhere else. You don't need to charge everybody for everything. And if you're making a little bit of money along the way, like actually when we launched the company, it took me a couple of years to make any money.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of volumes. Everything that came in, I put back out. And it's funny because we're like our third year, and I get sued a lot, just in case
It's
you
okay.
get
I
in the
get
business
it.
be
I've been
successful,
sued a
you're gonna
lot.
get sued
It's
a lot
true.
too. And I ain't worried about it. Like, have at it, bro. I'm right here. And they sued me because I left their company. And I'm like, why are they suing? Like, who cares? I'm independent, right? But my attorney said, man, they're gonna want to see your tax returns. I was like, dude, let them see my tax returns. I don't make no damn money. The people at my company, I think they already like me. They're gonna love me when they're like, dude, we make more than him. He owns it.
Yeah.
Like, we make a lot more than him, and he owns it. He meant, like when Home Depot launched, they didn't make a lot of money early on. They didn't know what they were doing. If you let him tell the story about they're going out and trying to get electrical supplies, they didn't know anything. But they knew that if the consumer paid less and they weren't gouging them, that eventually these huge box stores would do well. Because if a screwdriver there was 59 cents, but at the traditional hardware store was $4, you need to charge $4. Sell a lot of
selling
screwdrivers
volume.
at 59 cents. So I've never forgotten that business strategy. I've done it. I did it in real estate. I did it in waste management. I did it in life insurance. And it's always served me well. Profitability is important, yes. But again, if you build something to scale, you're going to make more than enough money anyway.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they fail in their business early on because they either keep too much and they starve it. They open a small business. They want to pay themselves 140 grand a year. I'm like, your profits are 160. You're not putting anything back into. What do you need 140 grand a year for? You're making 40 at your job. Or get a job, keep your job. Dude, I kept my job when I was running. Like, not because I necessarily needed the money, but it's like, dude, I'm not afraid to work hard. And I always wanted to show my kids hard work too.
And it's a lot easier. You're in a better space running a business when money's not on the forefront. Like if you're starving, it's hard to focus on making the right
100%.
decisions when you're starving. And I can never forget about the times like going into these different sales positions, because I come from a sales background as well. The difference between when I started this position, when I had money versus if it was like my pockets was bleeding a little bit, and going into sales is like most of them earlier on is like it's all commission based, right? There's no salary, so it's like you have to really have that belief in yourself, but you also have to have that confidence that you can kind of make it happen. Because if you're bleeding, it's like it's hard to focus, and you're trying to like swing for the fences every time. So that's kind of what that reminded me of, and I think a lot of people are in that position to where they go into starting these businesses because they want money or they need money, not necessarily thinking about the impact that they can make. And we were talking to you outside earlier, and Jazz pointed out the reason why you are so successful is because you go into it from the impact, the wanting to help people, the purpose over profit, side of the coin. Talk to our listeners a little bit about that. Like for people who can't figure out what their purpose is and they're just trying to figure out what is it that they should be doing? What is this business that they can launch? What is this side hustle that they can get into? What was the mindset that you were in to figure out where you were going to put your coins in your investment?
I did well in a lot of things that I did, but I never did anything like I did in life insurance. And I tell people, I liked real estate. I liked waste management, and I freaking love life insurance. And finding something you love is important.
Absolutely.
And to be honest with you, if it's really only truly at the end of the day wanting to make just extra money, get another job. I mean, only because, and I say that because businesses are hard to run. It has to be a calling. One of the things I do, like I have a faith. I don't apologize for it. If you don't have a faith, I ain't mad at you. I don't judge you. That's the other part of like faith. Like people are like, why are you talking? I'm like, dude, what book do you read? Like I ain't judging nobody. Like, and you can't judge me. And I have this, and I've created or I've had it, this ability where like if there are 8 million people watching or 8,000, no matter. I literally there's zero part of me, zero, that's thinking, I wonder what they think. And that's a powerful, and I'm not doing it to be funny. I'm saying because God will judge me. And there's things that listen, Judgment Day is going to be interesting.
He made it super simple.
I totally get it. But I think that when you look at, do have to find something you love. And I know people say that, but what inspires you? Like you guys love this, which means as long as you continue to work, it's going to work because you love it, because it's who you are. You found good chemistry. You work well together. But at the end of the day, you have to decide if you're going to be switching a job or leaving a job, because to your point with the money, the people go like, well, you got to fake it till you make it. Dude, I don't know what that means. Yeah. I mean, if you got no money, you got no money. And if rents due. And if your kids got to eat, my son couldn't breastfeed or take regular formula when he was born. He had this, and it's not, he doesn't have an allergy now, but he had to take this formula called Alimentum. It was like $56 a can, this big. 2 cans a day that horse would eat. He's 6'4" now. That's probably what happened. 2 cans a day. So $100 some a day. When you're making the amount of money I was making when he was born, and I had
People don't even make
no money.
after taxes.
But I'll tell you what I started thinking about, and I was in Connecticut, so y'all probably don't know what Stop and Shop is. That's a big food chain up there. And I was like, I'm just gonna start stealing this shit. And I don't steal nothing from nobody. Like if you and I at a bar, I might have been in a fight with you at some point in time. Right. You're a lot younger. We're good. We probably never crossed paths. Life is good. But I mean, I kind of, for you, if money's the only motivator, it's hard, dude. Now, you could be great at sales if money's the only motivator. I'm just telling you could be a great salesperson. I have salespeople I work with that truly care only about the money. They don't do anything deceitful. They don't do anything unethical. They do not hurt clients. But at the end of the day, and I've seen this in real estate, life insurance, waste management routes, whatever, they're solely, but I don't think they'll ever be content. See, my deal is if you guys do better, like when I pulled in here, I'm like, dude, this is my deal. Like this, I'm really excited to be on this because of where y'all are. Because you've been doing this for a few years and where you're going and what that'll look like. And it won't have anything to do with me, but I'm like, I'll remember what they were doing then. And that's really, really cool because we impact each other. And then we start talking, so we all get to understand each other. So I think you do. And what is it in your life? There's money in everything. I love kids. There's plenty of money in services for kids. I love animals. Good. Everybody will pay to do something with their kids and with animals. So be thankful that you love something. I love apparel. Everybody's got to wear something. Find something you love. Let it make a difference in people's lives. I want to be a life coach. Okay, well, first of all, you have to have success first. I'm just saying, like, you got.
What is your life?
We got a lot of life coaches.
That's right.
I'm a life coach. I'm like, dude, you're going to coach them and do the opposite of what you're doing, because that'd be like me going, like, hey, I'm going to give you advice on how not to get high and get drunk.
Right.
Like, now, if you want to get sober, I can talk about that. So, dude, find something you love that when you go to do it, it actually inspires you. Want to know why? Because when that happens, the money don't matter.
That's right.
Because you know it'll come. Because you know it'll come. You gotta. It's capitalistic society. You got to make money, but you'll know it's going to come. But it's got to bleed through you, and every one of us has something that makes us feel that way.
Man.
And if you don't think you do, you ain't looking.
Right.
Man. I love this guy. So, Shawn, with that being said, meaning you gotta love what you're gonna do. Period. It has to be a passion. It has to be in your heart. Purpose is in your heart. That's what I hear from you. So you went from real estate, waste management kind of get deal, to life insurance. You found out that you love life insurance. What was the variation from each that you figured out that you loved life insurance? Why is it life insurance?
Man, real estate, I started as a real estate agent. And I loved that part of it. What made me really good at that is I don't waste time. So, like, if you wanted to look at houses, and we looked at them for like a day already.
And that's a special skill, not wasting time.
Special skill. And I'm like, bro, let me explain something to you. You better pick 3 and like one of them. I ain't your limo driver. There was no Uber back then. I ain't your taxi driver. You pick 3. You drive by them as much as you can. I will negotiate the contract better than anybody you'll ever meet. But I ain't chasing you around all day long and entertain you. And also when couples came to me that I knew they weren't going to buy nothing, I was like, you better tell her you ain't buying nothing. He ain't buying nothing. He just likes to be entertained. He's been doing this for 2 months now. He ain't doing this shit with me. Because I respect my time. I've always respected my time. I liked real estate, but I watched people do things I didn't like. They took out loans they shouldn't have taken out. I'm like, dude, that's going to balloon in a year. You don't like. I didn't do well with that. I didn't enjoy that part of it. But I liked the industry, and it did make me money. Okay, so you can do okay with things you like, right? We joked waste management. I only opened because I was angry. I got angry at my dumpster bill and it being like $100,000 a month, 1 month. And I got pissed and I said, why can't I get in a waste management business? And that was actually probably the business that taught me the most because I did the least amount of research ever and I paid a massive price for it. I got knocked around for a while because I didn't do any research. I was purely out of anger. I was purely out of anger. Real estate market I understood really well. I watched for years. I got around a lot of coaches when I was growing up because I would always, everybody that comes into my life, I'm going to get some information from them. Y'all, I've already done it with you guys. Everybody I meet, a man comes in, set the thing up. You get me food down the street. I will get something from that interaction. I want to give something, but I will get something too. It might just be that I give and I'm like, I feel good that I gave, right? Like we had a conversation or whatever it happens to be. But at the end of the day, when I got in that business, I didn't understand that. Like I went from having no waste management company to launching it, buying 100 dumpsters overnight, boom, buying 3 trucks overnight, boom. So you're into it for already $500,000, 700 grand. And then my buddy said, man, look at that company. Their dumpsters are all sitting around. We're going to smoke them. And I just was like, yeah, man, they got a couple hundred dumpsters, 100 of them sitting in the lot. Like, wow. And right away, we had 100 dumpsters out right away. So I'm looking at the books and looking at the books. And I don't mind a little bit of a lot becomes a lot. But losing money after a while is like month after month. I know we're just getting started. And finally I said to myself, I really took a deep dive into it. And I was like, dude, we ain't making no money when we do this. When we drive outside of this area and when we rent to contractors, because they don't pay with a credit card, and they like everything to 30, 60, 90, 120 days, we're chasing our money. Matter of fact, the dumpster would make us more money sitting sometimes. We confused activity with profitability. And because I know the industry. And then I was joking with y'all about to dump it. I just thought, like, I'll dump it wherever. You know what I mean? Like, anywhere that's legal. And I didn't realize that 3 families for 100 of years own all landfills. So I had to learn I sent my guy in there. It didn't work out where he's a psycho. My buddy Shawn, he went in there and like started screaming and yelling at people, and he thinks that's the way to do business. That didn't work. So I had to go and talk to him and smooth it over. Life insurance, I'll be honest with you, I liked it right when I started. I don't think that I was like, oh my God, I love it. But I ran an appointment in Warregan, Connecticut with a lady. She'd fill out a form. So everything I did then was direct mail. Went out to her house. I had not had any death claims or anything. I'd just been there for a couple months. And I liked it. And she met me at the door and she said, hey, before you come in, I want to let you know I have stage 3 or 4 pancreatic cancer.
Oh, man.
I don't have much time. And I was like, damn, I'm sorry about that. And she's like, will you be a help me? I said, I don't want to lie to you. I said, like, all I could get you was because of your condition. They're not going to give you a $100,000 policy today. They're going to give you a small policy, but you're going to have to live for 2 years for it to pay out. If not, you'll just get your money back and like a little bit of interest. And honestly, like, I could sell it to you, but I probably don't even buy it. Like I never want to be walking around going like, that's the guy who sold me. So I want all my clients. I'll be sure I'm going to answer my phone. I'm going to avoid nothing.
Yeah.
To be honest, people, you don't have to avoid nothing. Good, bad, or indifferent. I've done things. I'm like, yep, you did that. Yep. How you know I'm telling the truth? I'm going to give you some answers you probably ain't going to like, but be honest, right? Be direct. So she comes to her. We start talking. She's super nice. And then around the corner comes my man. He looked like he just walked off a WWE set. He had he was this monster. Some of them dudes, they cut their sleeves, their shirt off so their arms are big.
Yeah.
You know their arms are big already. You can already see him. He's a monster. And he looked like a character from WWE, man. He had like a Harley cut on, no sleeves, tattoos head to toe, ponytail. And he looked at me and he said, who the fuck are you? And I was like, Shawn. And he said, because I learned to keep my emotions in check.
Yeah.
Once somebody controls your emotions, they control everything about you.
Right.
So I just said, Shawn. And he said, what the hell are you doing here? And then she said, calm down. He's the guy I felt. He said, I told him. He was just, listen, dude's frustrated. His wife's dying. They got 2 young kids. She's 32 years old.
You get
She's
it.
dying. I'm like, I get it. So we start talking, and he ends up being a little bit better, not much. I say something like, do you all have a dog? And she's like, no, why? I'm like, because we got, junkyard dog right here. We don't need no dog. He gave a little bit of a smile. We got a little, and then I said, cause I was going to leave. I was like, I'm going to leave. Like, I can't help him, thanks a lot. I went to leave, and I was like, hey, man, I got to ask you this. Do you have life insurance? And he lost it. Make a very long story short, I used her to help him buy a policy. He said he had something through work. When you have life insurance through work, it's not yours. So when your company takes it out on you, it's theirs. You don't own it. You get laid off, you don't have it anymore. They can change it whenever they want. It's not portable. You can't take it with you. So, and most people don't know that, which is unfortunate. I got life insurance to work. Yeah, until they decide or they dispute your debt. I mean, dude, you need your own policy. Would you take, I'll protect my kids through work. No, you do everything. This is your family, right? Said he had it. I ended up writing him a $250,000 policy. Then he didn't want to pay for it. So when you take out insurance, if I meet with you and I do the application, if you give me your banking information and it drafts right away, you're insured right away. But if you say to me, I want to wait, like I like it to come out on the 7th of the month, and then it's the 12th of the month, your policy isn't going into effect till the 7th of the following month. Till you pay the premium in an insurance policy. You have the application, you even have a policy, but there's no premium going to be paid. So he's like, I don't like my bill. I said, bro, I can't do it that way. I have to do it this way. Because I never knew. But this guy's healthy as can be. I'm like, he ain't going to die. 2 days later, that guy is going to work, and a deer runs out in front of his motorcycle, lays a bite down, hits his head, splits his head open, dies instantly. He dies before her. Then she dies a few months later from cancer. And the kid's got $250,000 from that policy. And that was it. Then I was like, you know what? I love this. I hate that happened to him, but I love this. And he wasn't supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, God is great. Like, and I ain't met the circumstances, but like, dude, he wasn't supposed to be there. He was late to work. He was never late to work. I didn't even have an appointment with her. I knocked on the door and said I did. So when people wouldn't answer, I'd take the lead and I would circle a time and day, and I'd be like, yo, okay, I'm here for our appointment. And you'd be like, what appointment? I'm like, says right here, man, Sunday at 2. You're like, okay. I'm like, dispatch got me out here Sunday at 2. You want me to take my shoes off? And I walk in your house, right? So I did that, right? Like, and she's like, oh, okay, I guess we had an appointment. We started talking. And then I fell in love with it because I saw what happened. Yep. Those children were raised by one of her siblings, but they had $250,000, $125,000 each from her, non-taxable. From him, actually, but from her.
Man, I'm like trying to wrap my mind around all of this because now we're really getting into the nitty-gritty, Shawn, of like just the benefits of having life insurance. And one, I don't think I knew that so what is the purpose of the job taking out a life insurance policy for you?
Well, first of all, it was back in the day, you understand, you're young, which is good, right? Mm-hmm. But like people that were my parents' age, dude, you worked at a company and they took really, really good care of you.
It was
and different. You were supposed to work there from like the day you worked until the day you retired. That's the way it works. Companies didn't change hands like that. They weren't acquired. They weren't gobbled up. It was a different world. So I think historically, it was kind of like, you know what, you work here. We get a discount if we do some kind of group policies. Why don't we go ahead and do it? We ain't the beneficiary, but we're going to go ahead and do it. It's a good benefit for you. Probably some tax benefits from them. Mm-hmm. So they would do it, right? It wouldn't be a perk, right? You come work with us over here, you get your 401k, and you get some life insurance. But when you look at the world today and how many companies are, first of all, not many of them do. And then also, you know, there was a company in Norwich, Connecticut, I'll never forget this, and they got acquired. And I had my license like 6 months at this point in time. Everybody starts calling me. But now they're like in their 70s, and some of them had some pretty significant medical stuff. And I'm like, why are y'all like, they're like, well, you know this person that works over there. I'm like, I know, but they're like, we just got purchased, and the new owner dropped every life insurance policy on every employee because he was the one paying the premiums. And I was like, and they're like, dude, I remember this guy, he had 2 heart attacks, had one like 6, and he's like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm still working, I have a wife, I have kids. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, but he's like, well, I had $200,000 with them. And I'm like, I know, but he's like, they can't do that. I'm like, yes, they can. Work insurance, if you have it, great. Have it as an extra benefit. Congratulations. They ever pay something, but it's not yours. And the reality, too, is they can check insurability. They can do whatever they want every year. They can do, and it's not their, if I take out a policy on you and I decide to stop paying, I'm well within my rights to do that. I'm well within my rights. I'm the one paying.
But it's not like it's something that, because typically if it's your policy, you can do what's,
and you can do whatever you want.
You can do it,
and you can borrow against it, but you can't do that if like.
Well, you can't do it.
Well, the company owns the policy.
And these are all like, honestly,
so we can say we're taking this in a different way.
Yeah, and these are
that's basic.
That's
just the lame term of it. So and you're basically telling us, Shawn, yes, your company that you work for can give you an insurance policy, a life insurance policy, but they also have the power to take that incentive away when the company feels that.
Wouldn't that make sense? If somebody
definitely
gives you something,
does to me.
Can't they take it
I just
back?
want for the listeners to hear that.
But I think that's and listen, here's what I do know. Nobody come knocking on my mom's apartment door asking us to buy life insurance. And the people I saw, I remember when my grandma died and my mom trying to figure out like how to, and I didn't, back then, I didn't know. We didn't talk about that stuff. The people in the school whose families had money, first of all, when I grew up, there weren't a lot of people who had money. Then when I transferred, because my mom was like, you're going to go over here and play ball in this school. And I was like, it's a really big school. There were people who had money. But I didn't sit down with their parents talk about, like, they talk about sports. They didn't be like, you know what, life insurance one day, you need to. Right. Nobody ever talked about it.
And they're not talking about it in school.
Hell no. They educate us in anything in school. And also, I think they wouldn't have talked to me because they would have assumed, like, he ain't ever having the money. Because that's what people do. They say they don't, but they do. They're like, that's for his information. I'm like, why can't I have that information? You know, which I think put a big chip on my shoulder early on. I knew that people looked at me that way. I knew they viewed me that way. And I was like, dude, the money is much more important to y'all than me, but I'll out-earn all of y'all. You know, people tell me all the time, like, I like Rolex watches, okay? I don't even know how many I got. I asked them, 12, okay? I don't even care about buying them. But I had an English teacher. I don't know if he's still alive, so I always say Mr. H. I mean, I wouldn't have no problem saying it, but I want to be real old and him be offended if he ever looked at something one day. And I wrote a poem, because they made us write a poem, and mine somehow I made Rolex rhyme with something. And he said, I don't know why. He gave back to me. He's like, whatever, you know. And he's like, but I don't know why you would. I asked you to talk about something in life that would affect you. And I was like, yeah, those are some things. Like, I just thought it was cool. My buddies, I've heard of them, and he's like, kids like you will never own Rolexes. And it like didn't crush me as a kid. I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? But I was like, screw you, punk.
That'll piss me off.
It pissed me off. So now I got a bunch of them. You know what I mean? But on, you know, so I really think it's we trust too much. We think here's what I'm gonna tell you. If you have an employer that has your best interest at heart, you're in the very, very, very small minority of companies that you work at.
Period.
Doesn't mean they're terrible people, by the way. They have every right to say, I do a three-legged stool approach to every company that I work at, launch, sell. Every decision I make has to be great for the consumer. So you're all doing this, you're like, whatever content we put out has to be great for the consumer. The experience has to be great for the guest. Right? So mine is the employers, the independent contractors, will be great for them. Then it can't harm the company. And then you're like, it can't harm us. We're going to do our podcast. But if yours is what can we get, period, end of story, screw everybody else, it will never work. But now you go, but it works for these companies. It does. They've been around for a while. But just watch as things change over time. Because some of them that faked it, like, oh, we care about giving back. It's like, no, you want the tax back, which is okay, but just be who you are.
Right.
So please don't rely on your employer. And also, this is our accountability. We are accountable. One thing I was telling my mom was like, you will, like, at the end of the day, it'll be you. It doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter who you're mad at. I don't care what they did. You have to be accountable. And my old man, you know, we have a relationship now. We hadn't talked for years. But even the times he was around, you know, when I was younger, and he's been sober for a while, and God bless him, and we have a good relationship now, which is super cool. Nice. And, but dude, they taught me accountability.
Yeah.
I mean, they taught me accountability. My dad, I was driving down the street when back then you drive at 14. My dad would be drunk. He'd be like, drive. And I remember this dude cut me off and I flipped him off. I was like 14. I was like 81 pounds. He's like, pull the car over. What the hell am I going to pull? He's like, pull the car over. You man enough to flip him off. You man enough to get out and talk to him. You know, like it was about accountability. If you're working on a job and they're giving you something, good, take it. And put it off to the side. If you lose it, you lose it. It was never yours to begin with. But please don't. And again, that's why a lot of people, when there's a death, it sets their family back dramatically financially. And they could have just taken out a term policy. Term is cheap insurance. You're not going to borrow against it. It's not a sexy policy, but it's going to give you a 15, 20, 25, 30. There's even some in there 40-year term. You die at any point in time in that term, your beneficiary gets the money. Tax-free. Like, and it's cheap, and that's okay. There's whole life, you're older, 50, 60, 70. Term's expensive because now your 30-year means you're going to be 90. You know, you're 20 years. So, but then you do a whole life policy, smaller face amount, you know, not 100, 200, 250. But also your kids are older now, right? You got kids?
Yeah, I do now.
How old?
He's 7 weeks. That's why it's so new for me to say that.
7 weeks, right?
Yeah.
But think about that. So 7 weeks, but in 20 years, he's 20 years old. Different deal when he's 30. So now when you get older, you get a whole life policy. It lasts till the day you die. But it's usually typically a smaller face amount, 25 grand, 50 grand, 75. I want to cover my expenses and make sure I leave a little bit of money. And then there's universal life when you actually make money, where the policy is pretty amazing. You can do some amazing things with it. You definitely can build some significant cash value. I'm a big believer, and I've had them since I started in the insurance business. That's where my bigger face amount policies are, because I want to earn money on my money. And structured the right way, they're amazing.
That's what I was going to.
You just have to decide, do you want death benefit, cash value, and is the person running it the right way? But it's understanding that. But for the love of God, like 75% of people that are surveyed across America every year, when you look at these LIMRA, there's like this agency that does all these stats for life insurance. Like 75% of people are like, yeah, I have no or not near enough life insurance. How is that possible? But we make money for everybody. You know, when I started, people would say to me, how'd you make all the sales? I'm like, I don't know. They fill out the form. I go out to their house. They give me the money. Like, what the hell you do, bro? Like, what do you mean? Well, they couldn't afford it. I'm like, they have a cell phone, a roof over their head, in their car. Get the hell out of here. Of course. No, they don't want to buy it from you because you're weak. They bought it from me. Matter of fact, give me your leads. I'll go sell them too. Yeah. They'll buy it from me because I ain't going no damn place to get the life insurance. Like, why would that? But that was my deal. Like, why would you do this to your family? You know, you wouldn't have filled it out. You wouldn't ask for it if you didn't want it. And at the end of the day, when you go to sleep at night and you think about, if my mom had died growing up, what would my brother and I have done? Who was going to give us the money?
Every month.
What's that?
I said, you don't have what it
Yes.
takes to live every month. But insurance can do that for you.
Yeah.
But wealthy people, when people die, it's like an event.
Yeah.
They plan for that. Trust.
When they first
They
have
do
their baby.
irrevocable trust. So many things you can do. But let's just take a lot of us growing up, right? Like, dude, you got to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Get your own policy and trust in you, and stop trusting people that give you advice that do not have your best interests at heart.
Or have done the thing that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Man, so that's how
Yeah.
I felt when I was growing up. I was a weirdo to everybody.
You was weirdo?
I
'Cause you
mean,
was talking
'cause
about things nobody else was talking about?
I'm still, yeah.
You still
Yeah.
that way
You
now.
see what I bring in.
You still that way now.
You see that. That's why I'm super
That's a
excited
compliment.
about
You
you.
still that way now.
So let me ask you this, Shawn. Like when it comes to like the whole life versus the term life, are you saying it's best to do whole life when you're older and term life when you're younger?
Yeah, I mean, here's the progression for me, right? And I look at all three. When you right now, you're a great example. You're young. You have a very young child. If you have more children, you have a much bigger liability for the next 18 to 20 years than you do in 20 years, right? And also, how old are you?
29.
29. So life insurance is ridiculously cheap. 30-year term, where at any point in time for your son or any subsequent children you have, they're covered. It's not going to cost you about nothing every month. Then there's term with return of premium, which I'm a big fan of, where every dollar you put in, if you outlive it, so you go to age 59, which I'm sure you're going to be alive at 59, right? You know, God willing, boom, they give you all your money back. So every dollar you paid in premium, if it's $100 a month, which it wouldn't be that much for you're young, but if it was return of premium, it might be $100 a month is $1,200 a year, $12,000 every 10 years. So at $36,000 in 30 years, they go, okay, congratulations, bro, your policy's termed out. You're alive. Here's your $36,000. Now they made money on your month. They were able to make interest on it. So for them, it's like, you want to give me $36,000. You want to give me that money every month. I'll take it too and give it back to you. I'll keep the interest, right? So it makes sense across the board. Straight term with no return of premium is going to be half that amount of money. You go, well, I don't get anything back. No, you don't, but it's a very affordable way to take care of your family. So you got to kind of decide what you want to do at that point in time. You know, taking out a whole life policy when you're really young, I mean, you can buy them, but when you're 29 years old to take out, so you go like, well, $100,000, but I want to pay it for the rest of my life. Well, it's a lot more expensive because it's going to go for the rest of your life.
Right.
So I'm like, hi, dude, your window here is much more vulnerable than after that. So why don't we get, and a lot of the terms will even convert into whole life. So I think you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s. Dude, you start with a term policy. You're in your 40s, you start with a term policy. You get to be above the age of 50. Whole life is probably the route. If you're looking at an index universal life, the younger the better. When people are like, I'm going to get an IUL, I'm like, dude, you're 62. And I'm not trying to be, but the cost of insurance is too high. It's great when you're in your 20s, 30s, early 40s, crazy good health. So I got my first one at 36, ridiculously good health. I mean, it's done great for me because my cost of insurance is very low. The last one I took out was 4 years ago. I mean, it's, huge policy. But now at 51, I have all the insurance, which is good that I feel good that everybody's protected. But when you get to be above the age of 50, it's whole life. I think that's just about to go. Now, you might say to me, now again, certain situations, you might go, hey man, I'm 50, I just had a kid. Well, guess what? Now you win it, so now you maybe take a 20-year term out. And it might be more expensive, but I'm like, dude, but you have a kid. It's a lot. So you have to look, everybody's life situation is different. I draw out what your debts and liabilities are now and what you project them to be over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Some people might be raising somebody else's kids,
So I had this scenario, okay? And this is like somebody that has a lot of liquidity, okay? And I remember calling AAA. And they were like, all right, if you give me $36,000 right now, you can have a $250,000 policy. You never have to make a payment again. I thought that was pretty awesome. Because a lot of times, why do people not get their payout? They miss a payment.
Correct.
Whole life, you never have to make a payment again.
Correct.
I mean, if you have a lot of liquidity,
correct.
What do you think about that?
It depends on the age, right? So if you tell me you're 29 and you give me $36,000 and I project that you might be in your 80s when you die, for 60 years, you let me take that kind of money? I'm like, dude, I can turn that money into $250,000 on my own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
so
what
like,
I'm thinking.
That's the thing I look at interest. So I'm not,
I agree.
But now on the flip side,
I'm talking about the insurance side.
Oh, no, I know. But on the flip side, how disciplined are you?
Yeah.
Now, if you're like, dude, I'm not all that disciplined, but at least if I take care of peace of mind from me, I know I'm good. It's like when I finally started making real money and getting paid in these businesses. People are like, what are you going to do with your money? I'm like, tax-free municipal bonds. I'm going to put all my money in there. I'm going to get my rate of return. I got to pay taxes on it. It's legal as can be. It's awesome. I'm going to buy A-rated stuff. And when the market does what it does, I ain't going to see some insane, oh my God, look what just happened. And I have equities. I have some other stuff in there. It's more volatile. Been very good. Found a good guy to manage them. But also like just that, I'm like, wait a minute. I put this lump sum and y'all give me this every month and I don't pay taxes on it. And I won't take away from my pile. Because when you create a pile, you want to try to live off of everything the pile makes and not dig into the pile. And if you don't got a big enough pile, then make a bigger pile, right? Because at the end of the day, you and whatever lifestyle you're living. There's people that live ridiculous lifestyles. There's people that like your lifestyle is ridiculous to them. It depends on what people's circumstances are. I got friends of mine that can live on like peanut butter, jelly, and some water. I mean, seriously, like they ain't got no kids. It's just them. They got a new pair of shoes 10 years ago. I mean, do I hang out with them all the time? No. Not because they don't have any money, because they bitch and moan and complain about everything all the time. And they ain't watching no podcasts. They'd be like, I don't want to watch nothing. Just bitch about everything. But I still got love for them. I'd be there if something happened. I'd show up. But, I think every situation is different. So you really have to ask, because sometimes you got to protect yourself from you. Yes. You're liquid right now with 40 grand, and you a little bit of a riskier person with the way you do your stuff, and you got 2 kids, and you're like, you know what? If I do this right now, I'll always have 250 grand, and then do it. Yeah. But again, the interest you can earn on 40 grand is pretty substantial.
That makes a lot
50,
of sense.
60 years too.
And I'm even thinking about like myself thinking like why I used to think the benefits of whole life versus term life was a lot different was I think I need to get out of the mindset of set it and forget it. I think with like whole life at my age, it's like, okay, I get it. I don't got to worry about it again. Like, okay, let's say I got this 20-year policy and then 20 years later, I got to get a new one. Right. It's like having that mindset of set it and forget, I feel like sometimes can be a bad mindset to have.
I would agree with that. It's a great point, by the way. Because we want this peace of mind, but it's not a good business decision. Right. At the end of the day, now, if you were never going to have kids, now it might be. Because you're like, dude, it's just me. Okay, I get my whole life. I don't have to worry about it anymore. How much do I really need when I die? As long as my expenses are taken care of, I don't need debt. I throw somebody in my family a little bit of money to take care of my final stuff. But now you got kids. And that's what I tell people, too. Insurance, there's no cookie cutter answer because everybody's situation is different. Look, there's also some people who are like, dude, I'm just so anxious. I got to get it and not think about it again. I have to. I just have to know. So, everybody's very different. Part of that is just figuring out where people are at. And then when you're in sales, when they're confused and they don't know is when you have to have an educated opinion. It's like, hey, man, I hear you on this. I know what you're saying. Because you make a great point. When I train people in life insurance, I'm like, you have to understand, you have to figure out, first of all, what do people know about life insurance and what are their preconceived, because you're already kind of going like, dude, I'm a whole life guy. So if I knock on your door and all I do is talk about term and I don't talk about nothing else, I don't hear you out, you're kind of like, dude, I'm a whole life guy.
This is what I hear a lot in insurance. Like everybody is always like, hey, universal life. Oh, hey, whole life. Or hey, I love term life. And it's like, where is that person that understands?
Educating.
Unfortunately, a lot of them pick what pays them the most.
I get it, but
and they all pay different. My deal is if I put you in the best possible product, the business will say in the books, you'll refer people to me. Those are free leads. And on top of it, and most importantly, dude, I did right by you. You're not going to call me in 6 months or a year and go, hey, man, like my phone rings and it's a client from 10, 12, 15 years ago. I'm excited to answer. I don't always remember it. When you remember me, I'm like, did I have like 10,000 clients? Now, sometimes some of them, the crazier ones, I do.
Shawn, when I call you, you better remember me.
I will definitely not forget y'all. There's no way I can forget y'all. But, so I think you bring a good point. And I think that's the thing in sales too, is you have to flush out what people already know about the product. Yeah. If you're in real estate, you can't just you got to hear, what are they thinking? Their dad might have told them forever, never buy a house, only buy a condo. Like, you don't know. Or don't rent ever, only. So you kind of got to deal with what their baggage is and then ask them questions about it. And then you have to appropriately help make a decision. Here's the best. If you're in sales, you want to be in sales part-time, full-time, you start saying things like, here's what we're going to do. It's a very empowering statement. Like, you're kind of telling them what to do, but it's like, if I come in here and I thought there was something y'all could do different, I'd be like, hey, man, here's what we're going to do. So we're all in it together.
Like, we're in it together, yeah.
But I'm giving you my opinion.
You sound like a couple of my buddies that are really big.
And I think that's
here's
huge.
What we're going to do.
I like talking about the sales because I feel like sales is just such a huge transferable skills that helps people in life. Not just business, but life. You learn how to communicate with people. You learn how to listen better. You learn how to make some money for yourself. So it's like, before we transition, I do have another question about the life insurance piece, because I was going through the finances with my wife, and I was looking at like one of my policies, and I noticed one thing that, because I'm a set it and forget it type of guy, I realized that they stopped taking the premium maybe like a little bit over a year ago. Like I stopped seeing it show up on my bank statements. Still got the same account, so I'm not sure why. In that event, what would happen? Because I'm sure a lot of people probably have lapsed time. Did it pretty much lapse? Is that what you think
It
happened?
lapses.
Okay.
Each company's different. Could be 90 days. Could be 90 days. There's no benefit, but like once you hit 9 days. But if you go ahead and make a payment, there's a 6-month recap, so you can put it back in the books.
Okay.
As long as you call the person immediately and figure out what happens. And these are big companies, so sometimes things happen. And that's why like somebody sold you the policy, right?
Yeah, and then they're no longer an agent. So now
that's the thing for me. And I always told everybody like, you know, the problem is a lot of people, because it's such a great industry, but a lot of folks get into it without the proper training.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we launched the company we launched. I mean, it's family first life. Like, let's just put your family first, dude. Like, we'll help you build this thing. And I think that because so many people get in it and get out, and then you don't know who to call, and then try to call an insurance company, that can be like a maze you can't get out of. You know, that's why I always love taking all my phone calls from my clients. I'm like, and I know all the insurance reps, so I can call and be like, hey, so-and-so, so you didn't call her back. Call her back. And so some of my clients, I'd be like,
You're an advocate.
Why am I buying from you? I said, let me be clear about something. You tell the truth and find at this application. You tell the truth, and you get approved. And they delay paying the death claim at all. I know exactly where all their office is. They got to deal with my ass. I'll sit in a lobby till they pay that death claim. You know, because you advocate for people, right? But you need to call the company right away. And honestly, if you need help, I mean, outside of this, just let me know. I can know every company. So you let me know. I'll give you a number to call, or I can call on your behalf and find out and tell them, you know, that you need somebody to call you. They ain't gonna give me any information, but get somebody to call you.
Yeah.
So,
I appreciate
think
that.
I think that's the struggle, dude, because and that happens all the time. And then somebody dies, and they're like, "Oh, we got this," and it's
But
like,
no,
"No,
they
dude, they
don't.
stopped drafting 2 years ago," and you're like, "I've had it for 18 years." I'm like,
Yeah.
"I know, but they stopped drafting 2 years ago. You've not made a payment."
Yeah, that's
And they're like, "How would I know?" Like, I don't know, but that's I had a lady
This
that
happens all
did
the
that. I'd been in it for a couple of years, and I showed up, same thing, no appointments. I had an appointment. She was crying when I got there. I was like, wow, it's about 11 o'clock in the morning. Her husband had just died. Had a heart attack walking a mailbox, like 49 years old. Walking a mailbox, she's inside hanging out, didn't see him for an hour, goes out driveways, face down, he's dead. And she showed me the policy, showed it to me. She said, but we've had this for like 15 years. And I'm like, well, let's call them up together. And so we do, and they're adamant. Like, she didn't. I'm like, do you have? She's like, well, no. And I'm like, what does your bank account say? So I really wasn't checking it. Something happened. I think they had actually switched accounts. I do think something happened, and they hadn't. But nobody's going to call you up, bro, and go, hey, because you know what? No offense. You paid 15, 16 years. They didn't pay no death claim.
That was my 36,000.
They kept the money.
Life
Yeah.
Like,
so is that why it might be a benefit to pay for a policy in full if you?
Yeah, I mean, listen,
That's if you have
most
that.
companies are listen, I think almost all of them, first of all, they want your money. They want to take it, right?
Yeah.
They're not trying to not take it. But I think that also it's why nowadays it being automatic draft is a huge benefit. Because when I started, I mean, obviously automatic draft was still big, but not like it is now. So a lot of people are still giving paper checks. And it's like, bro, I ain't mailing a paper check. Like, what if it doesn't get there? What if there's no money in your bank account? Like, and then all of a sudden it bounces, and you got no death benefit. Like, I would never, ever, ever want to sell somebody something. They think they have it, and then have to be like, hey, man, you don't have it. No way. It's not like a bottle of water. Like, you get another bottle of water. You didn't get the house of your dreams. Well, there's other houses of your dreams, probably. But you didn't get this big old check for your beneficiaries. Because life insurance is the most selfless thing you'll ever buy. Yeah. Because you're buying it, and when the benefit comes in, you'll never you'll benefit from knowing you did, but you'll be gone.
It's true.
Every life is a death sentence, so why doesn't everybody have life insurance?
So, of course, there's a couple different products, right, that we just talked about. I know that it's a case-by-case scenario, depending on what you have going on in your life. But if you could give our audience just a basic of saying, hey, today, if you were 18 to 40 and you got this amount of money, put your money here first.
Well, if you're 18 to 40, you have money. You have liquid money. And if you're in good health, that's the other thing too. Life insurance is not a great vehicle for you to put money in if you're unhealthy, because they'll give it to you, but your cost of insurance is so inordinately high. So it's like, man, it's not going to build because the cost of insurance is so high. So you're like, man, I'm putting in $400 a month. Yeah, your cost of insurance is $380. you get $20 a month that you're making some money on. You have two buckets: the death one that's paying for the death benefit, and the cash that's your money to make something off that you can borrow against in the future and do all that. And there's a book called Tax-Free Retirement. It's a really good book. And it talks about IULs. Tax-free retirement. It's a phenomenal book.
I was going to ask you what your favorite
I
one was.
read that about IULs, and that's when I bought my first policy. And it's Patrick, I forget his name, I wrote the book, but great book, okay? Tax-Free Retirement. If you're 18 to 40 and you're in good health and you have liquid money, you should look into getting an IUL. You should go online, you reach out. I'll help you get one. I ain't gonna be one to sell it to, but I'll refer you to somebody, right? But it's because they're phenomenal opportunities. Because what you're thinking about is, can I fund my own retirement? Because I may not have a retirement over here. And again, if my cost of insurance is lower because you took advantage of it because you were at a good age, young, and of good health, because you don't know what's going to happen in 3 years. Now, that's an argument for whole life over term, right? Mm-hmm. Because guess what? If you're like, man, what if I get sick? Well, when your 30-year term runs out, unless your policy is convertible, you got to look and see if it's convertible. And a lot of them aren't. If it's not convertible, can you afford that premium to continue? You might be uninsurable. You might say to me, Shawn, in 30 years, I'd like insurance, but hell, right now I'm going to take a $250,000 policy out for a guy like you you could take that cheaper term out in a small whole life. It's going to cost you nothing. Get 25, 50 grand. It'll cost you like literally at your age, nothing. Put it in a drawer. You have that forever. You get to be 30 years from now. This other policy's done and paid. Then you have this policy over here if you weren't healthy enough to get something new and you got it at a good price. Also, if you're between 18 and 40 and you're like, I want coverage, I need 200 grand in coverage, but I do have a little bit of money, but I don't know how much money I got. I really don't want to put $300 or $400 or $500 into it a month, but hell, I got $100. Get a return of premium. You get all your money back. You don't make any interest on it, but you get every dollar back. See, that's what excited me about the industry in 2008 is return of premium.
That's why I like that.
I'm like, explain that again to this dude that hired me, Jim. I'm like, dude, explain that to me. And Jim didn't sell nothing. That's why I never respected him. Mm-hmm. Like, don't be absent and expendable at the same time. Mm-hmm. You get a lot of currency when you work hard.
I haven't heard this. I like this.
And so I was like, dude, you're telling me they get every dollar back? He's like, every dollar. I'm like, no way. So I called the insurance company. I'm like, you guys are like, yeah, do whatever they paid in. They get a check back for the full amount. Matter of fact, it's funny because I'm coming up on my very first policy I took out this return of premium was a 15-year term. And it's just funny that it is. It's return of premium.
This is awesome.
And I'm due like in 4 months with those. I mean,
you're about to get a bonus.
I'm gonna get a bonus. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh my god!
But you know what's funny? Back then, 15 years ago, I was like, oh my god. And again, I'm very blessed and very happy about what we're doing and where we're going. And I just probably donated the Dream Center in East LA. It's my favorite nonprofit in the country. And I love them all. So I'm just saying that's just our relationship with Pastor Matthew. He's a great dude. But so I think those are your two options if you have money. If money's tight, and by the way, if money's tight, that's the number one reason you get life insurance. Mm-hmm. That's the struggle. A lot of people are like, money's too tight. My mother would have been the best candidate ever. You have the most to lose. If money's tight with you alive, what's going to happen with you dead? So really cheap, just term. No bells and whistles. No, just get something cheap. Mm-hmm. Somebody tries to talk you into something else, find somebody else. And then I think, above the age of 50, you're unhealthy and, money's a little tight. Whole life is a good way to give yourself peace of mind. And if you have significant medical issues, you might have to wait some time or kind of figure out what you have and don't have. I mean, and again, if you might be, 3 years away from something, maybe you had cancer 7 years ago. I mean, you have a record. Every company's different, man. Mm-hmm. I always joke with some of the insurance carriers. I'm like, dude, you won't give them insurance. They had a DUI. Y'all are raging alcoholics. I go to the meetings with you. Like, isn't it funny? You won't give them insurance. And again, I don't want anybody to drink and drive. I don't think anybody should drink and drive. I've been sober 23 years. I know what I did when I was behind the wheel, and God bless, I didn't kill nobody or hurt nobody, thank God. But so I'm not a fan of that. Like, I'm not advocating for it. But it's like, damn, you're all pretty judgmental with the things that people do and don't do what they can. But I understand it's also risky behavior. Right. So you really kind of got to understand. So you have to know everything. But IUL is a great place to look if you have liquidity and you're of good age.
And what does IUL stand for?
Index Universal Life.
Gotcha.
And again, really the biggest part is your term is your term. And even if it's return of premium, it all stays here. Your whole life is not going to earn you really. I mean, it'll show you a very small return, but they're not structured for that. You can take money out, but then you're taking off your death benefit. And the IUL is purely a vehicle where it's like, here's two different buckets, man. You can here's what you earn when the market goes down. You don't lose any money. When it goes up, you share in its gains. And they have different crediting strategies. And again, I just ask people like, what's performed the best over the last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Then I'll take that.
Yeah.
You know, but they're phenomenal vehicles. And insurance companies betting you're going to stay around for a while. They're kind of betting that we're going to be able to make more money, and we're going to share a lot of it with them. But we're going to make enough in interest where if we share, dude, think about this. If they have hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars, they're making 1, 2, 3, 4 points of interest.
That's
oh
a lot.
my
That's a lot of money.
God.
It makes sense. It makes sense now. That's a little bit of a lot.
That's what, right.
Yeah.
It goes right back to his little bit of a
Yeah.
lot. Which
Came
goes,
full circle. See that?
Which
Right.
goes
You
back
did that
into,
fine. Good job.
let's go about you sold this insurance
Yes.
business recently,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So what prompted you to sell that business? What marker was there that you said, it's time?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question. You know, I don't know that it was like, oh my God, it's time. Really what happened was we were getting so big that there was so many we were outgrowing everything we had, all the infrastructure, you know, and I had two choices. Either create this insane infrastructure, which is fine. I could, you know, like people are like, who's CEO? I was. Who's CFO? I was. Who's CEO? I was.
Mm-hmm.
Who's CTO? I don't even know anything about technology really, but I was. But, you know, so I knew we would have had to do a lot of those things. Some of the tech upgrades were millions and millions and millions of dollars. And yeah, at that point in time, you know, I certainly could have afforded to do it. And it was funny because I met with a couple private equity companies and up in New England. And I remember the very first meeting I walked in and they're all like dressed pretty good. You know, I got my best suit on back in the day, and I'm in there, and the guy says, "What's your EBITDA?" And I said, "What's EBITDA?"
Right.
I'm like, EBITDA.
And he's like, "Earning before income tax, depreciation, amortization." I said, "Okay." So we went through the whole thing, and then they wanted to give me like this amount of money, but take this much equity. But and it was like, dude, how's that good for me? So I looked around the room, and I'm like, y'all went to Ivy League schools. Do people actually do it if like this structure? And one of the guys pulled me aside, he's an older guy. He's like, "Hey man, I get it. Like I'm totally good." He's like, "But you're really refreshing." I said, "Why is that?" He's like, "Because you were easy to communicate with. When you ask questions, like, he's like, I understand why you have a really big organization." I said, "Well, if y'all want to do something outside of what you just offered me, but I'm not going to take, you know, give you 20% of the company, then pay you back 20% every week when it comes in." And then also the bigger deal was I didn't want anybody to change what I was doing. Like I want to run my company.
Mm-hmm.
So I had said no. And then I got a phone call from a guy I used to work with, this guy named Bob, who was at an insurance company. And kind of semi-retired, was doing some consulting. He said, "Hey, you should come look at this company called Integrity Marketing Group." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, they do partnerships and acquisitions in the life insurance space, health insurance, all that." And I said, "Bob, I like you a lot, so I'll take a phone call with them." Got on the phone with them guys. And they asked me about me, which I liked. Family, life, and I asked them about them. And they said, "Why don't you come into Dallas with me?" And I was like, "Sure, well, I can't get hurt by doing that. I go to Dallas to meet with them." And I remember I said, "Hey, listen," after we started talking, I said, "I don't know if I'm open to doing anything, but if I do, if I'm going to stay on board, I want to run it. I want to run it, number one. And also, unless it goes wrong, if it goes sideways, y'all tell me, I'm totally good, but I want to run it. We're doing good. If we continue to do really good, I want to run it. If it goes wrong, y'all want to come and fix it, no problem. Kind of like it's a democracy when it's going good, but it's a mother effing dictatorship for a few minutes when it goes wrong. Y'all want to tell me I ain't making no money, I'm fine, but I want to be able to run the company. Like, as long as it's going good, you're good." Second thing was, I said, I want the people that work with me to be able to sell their companies too. I don't own their companies. So you worked with me, had 150 agents on your team. I wanted you to be able to sell, if you wanted to, I wanted you to be able to sell your company as well. I didn't own your company. So that's how we did it too. We wanted everybody to own their own business.
Mm-hmm.
You own your book of business. I wanted people to do that. So once I saw those two things were possible, you know, I remember I came back to the office in Connecticut. Mike Sizer was like my original guy who was with me. And he's like, "How'd it go?" And I jokingly said, "I don't know. I think I sold the company." And but I've remained on. It's been 4 years. So I love the company. I love the people that work there. We've had another, God, when you look at total partnerships, you know, 40 people or so that have been able to do the same, that work with me. They're like, "Hey, I have my own business. I have my own EBITDA. Can I go ahead and sell my own company?"
Nice.
And that's probably been the coolest thing for me. But it's been, it's you learn a lot, man. You learn a lot in business, dude. There's a lot of life lessons in business.
Yeah.
You know, and it's when it's going really good, people got their own ideas of how it is, and they want your help. It's just different how you got to keep an even keel emotionally. You stay emotionally attached to the business, not what the people do or say. Emotionally attached to the business unit.
And I can tell you learned a lot, Shawn. And you as the author and the host of your book and your podcast, Punch Me in the Face, which I think is a great name because you naturally have this aura of like right in your face, like very like the information you need that you didn't know you needed when you need it. And so if you could, in that realm, give our listeners some advice or some like really in your face advice that would help them get it out of a situation where it's really hard to get momentum in the direction that they're trying to take things.
I'll give you a very pointed example. So I wrote a book called Punch Me in the Face, which I think y'all would like. It's an easy read and it's very direct and it's very informative. The podcast was named Punch Me in the Face for the first year, and I just changed the name.
Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you why I changed the name.
Yeah.
And this is what y'all should do. I went to people that had really big, really, really, really big podcasts and really big online presence. I mean, millions and millions and millions of people, hundreds of millions of views. And it's funny how you can forget the basics. And I had a guy tell me, he said, when you think about bringing people on, like when you all bring people on the $1 Million Mind, everything you say can be attributed back to the $1 Million Mind. Okay. And he wasn't trying to get me, he was just talking to me. And he said, I followed your insurance business and I saw why you did so well. You attacked the things you didn't like. When people got paid low compensation, you attacked that and said, come work with me. When people that were not selling were trying to train them, you attacked it and said, come work with me. You attacked it. And I said, yeah, I did. He said, and Punch Me in the Face. He goes, I love it. It's a great name for book, great name. It's in your face. But can you talk to every time somebody comes on, are you able to talk about Punch Me in the Face? And he just left it there and that was it. But I went seeking information. And then after a little bit of debate, I come back with Close and Conquer. I want to teach people to close. I want to teach people to conquer. And here's the answer to your question. First of all, you got to find people that are doing better than you. I don't care how good I'm doing. There's plenty of people doing better than me, and I will find them. You also have to close yourself. No matter what you're doing in life right now, if you're looking to do something else, you have to be 100% in. If you're 50% in, don't do it. You don't do it. You got one foot in the pool, do not do it. If those things are personal in your life that you have to remove, then you have to make a decision. Maybe you can't remove them. Can't remove a spouse. I mean, I guess you could, but like not a good program. I'm dating. I was at a meeting one day in Vegas. Kids like, hey, what if people don't support you? I go, who specifically? He goes, my girlfriend. Been with her like 3 years. And I go, your girlfriend? You got any kids? No. You're not married? No. I said, break up with her. And he looked to his left. I said, damn, is that her right there? He said, yep. I said, just do it right now. Just break up with her, bro. Like you can't. And I wasn't trying to be funny, but I'm like, dude, if you're lying, don't break up. And I don't care if break up with her or not. I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, you're going to have to decide what's helping you and what's holding you back. And a lot of it is us based on the things we hear and the things we believe. We're a very dangerous species when we believe in ourselves. The thing is, no matter what room you put me in, I know I need to know more, but I know I can do well, if that makes sense. So I'm appropriately humble but confident. And also, you have to find out what you're so afraid of. You take out a piece of paper and you go, I'm going to write down the 10 things I'm most afraid. You're looking to do something, write down the 10 worst things that can happen. Seriously, the worst things that can happen. And then give them to somebody that's been through something and let them look at them. And if the worst thing is I can lose a little bit of money, give it a shot.
Yeah.
But it's what's the worst thing? Every business deal I do, people pitch me and stuff all the time. And I'm like, what's the worst case scenario? And if the worst case scenario is pretty bad, I may not do it. But if worst case scenario is it's I'm able to collateralize that deal and get my money back no matter what, like my attorneys are good. Believe me. I ain't no problem. But it's like, if they look at it and go, yeah, man, I'm as certain as you can ever be certain from a business standpoint, this collateralized and they can never get out of this thing. And those are tangible assets that you now own if they don't deliver. Cool. And I'm not worried about those assets being depreciated or going away. But I think a lot of us, you're getting ready to get ready to get ready. At some point in time, you have to do it. And the problem with life is each day, week, month, it goes by real quick. And then we settle. You don't teach people to ski when they're 40. People are like, you ski. I'm like, dude, I grew up broke. How would I have gone skiing? Like, where would I have ever gone? I'm not mad at you, but like when you ask me, like, do we live in an apartment? Like, where was I going to get skis? That'd have been my money in my car. Like, I didn't go to the lodge. I don't have skis. But if you were to ask me, you teach a kid when he's 8 to ski, he ain't got no fear. Every year we move on in life, we develop civility and fear and then more fear.
Agreed.
And then so the longer you wait and the longer you procrastinate, the harder it becomes. That's why, like in my business, I'll hire anybody of any age, but give me somebody who's 20. They're independent contractors. I mean, they're sales. They're not employees. So anybody, I'll hire anybody. You can be 20, you can be 89. Don't matter to me. You can be 97. I don't care. But that 20-year-old, most likely, he doesn't have the preconceived fear and baggage that a 50-year-old does. I'm 51. A lot of my friends, I mean, I love my friends. They're great people. But like, if you
You're
start
still
telling them
really
to do
young.
something different, they're like, dude, I've been doing and also change is hard, but change is good. So I think for me, it's, really
Even if
believe
that
in
change,
yourself.
it's not growth.
Start to believe in you. And you know what? If you want to do something, start reading and watching some of these podcasts and listening to people talk. I tell people all the time I do meetings, I could teach either one of you. I could teach anybody as long as you to run the companies I've run. You may not like it, but it's not like it's like, oh my God, I can't teach. I'm not an open heart surgeon. And I was on my plane the other day. And it's funny because I was always like, you don't need math and science. And we were going through, trying to land in Houston to go to the national championship game. But they rerouted us to Galveston. And I was like, how do you know we can't land in Houston? And they broke out this, they're doing math. And they're like, this wind shear. And that's how planes crash. And I was like, shit, when they said math's not important, they lied. Math's important for you guys.
Yeah.
My mind don't work that way. You're not going to teach me that. But as far as running a business in a service industry, dude, you don't need any talent. So I got around people that did really well, and I realized they're not different than me. They're not better than you. The people that have done better than you are not better than you. They just want more than you right now. But if you decide that I want more for my family, and you decide you won't take no for an answer, that's all sales is. I'm here until you say yes.
It's true.
I ain't going damn nowhere. Now, eventually I'll leave. I'm not going to hang out at your house, have you call damn police. But when I have confidence, people tend to just kind of want to be in business.
And when people are on that brink versus just wasting your time too.
100%.
Man, Shawn, you've been such an inspiration. I
Yeah.
sat here and opened up this meeting and I said, I'm not a salesperson. I'm definitely a
You are a
saleswoman.
salesperson.
definitely.
You
When
are.
I think about the first time I ever got hired at Guy's Person, I was that girl that was at that door every single day and I wouldn't let them tell me no.
Yep.
I remembered.
Yeah.
Shawn, I don't know where you came from, but I just
Right in your
thank
face.
God for you
what you
right
need to hear,
now.
right? Shawn, it's been truly like a pleasure having you on the show. And
Been an
I
honor.
mean, I feel like it's so many other things we didn't get a chance to
Crazy.
scratch the surface. But what I think is most important is that we related it back to where the conversation has been going recently. And I think that I'm very appreciative of you kind of touching and, on some of the things, especially in the life insurance. I feel like that's such a realm that so many people like myself just don't even know where to begin to wrap our minds around it. And you went from a guy who never had the insurance man visit your home to running an insurance company. Like, as we're wrapping up, just talk to us about like some of the most important things you've learned about yourself and learned about life insurance along that journey of just going from never, hearing about it, never having these tough conversations around it, to now being able to run this very, profitable business around it.
Man, I every step in life, you always got to be kind of reevaluating where you're at, and also if you don't know, ask. And I mean, no matter where you are, no matter what you do, if you don't know, ask. There's so much power. The quality of your life will be based on the quality of the questions you ask.
Yeah.
When I was 9, I got hit by a truck. Okay, dislocated my hip, broke my arms, my heart stopped, and I ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks. My mom worked at the hospital. Her hospital plant was right up the street. She come running down. I'm laying around bleeding everywhere, and I go to the hospital for 3 weeks. And I'm like 3 days into the hospital. It's me and this other dude who's a year younger than me. Okay, never forget this. Remember his first name. I ain't seen him since. And I hope he's okay. He had 3rd-degree burns over the majority of his body. Okay, and I've always been a perspective person, right? Like I almost died. Arthur Blank meeting I went to, that cost me $15,000. It was one day. That was worth millions of dollars. Now, I ain't Arthur Blank, so I don't charge $15,000 a day, but it was $15,000. And I asked him 3 questions. Had a lunch, had a dinner, and went to the Chick-fil-A office and met the Cathy family, and the Truett was at the bridge. He had passed, and it was whoever was running it now. But that I invested in me. And when somebody said to me, this is what it costs, I just went and sold more. That's all I did. In real estate, if there was an event, I'm like, okay, it's going to cost me $20,000 to get there, hotel, buy I want the information. If I sell another house, I made 10. I'll sell 2 more. Okay, and insurance. Every policy was about $1,000. Okay, I need 15 policies to pay for itself. They're like, you should buy that property. I'm like, how many policies is it? So I start on policies.
Yeah.
That's $3,000 a month, 3 policies. So I do 3 more because you can earn through your sweat equity the money to invest in your business. But a lot of folks want to get into the business and then not work in the business. And then you fail because nobody follows a positional leader.
That part.
I'm in charge. No, you're not in charge. You don't work. I've always worked as hard as I could and tried to outwork everybody. And also, if you run a business and you can make money with your own efforts and sales, you don't need anybody. When you don't need anybody and you're in business with them because you want to be, but you don't need them, you pick and choose who you want to work with.
That part. Man, I keep saying it, but I'm going to say it one more time, Shawn. It's been great. It's been a blessing to have you on the show.
Thank you, man.
And I really feel like this is going to be one of those episodes that people are going to take and make a lot of monumental changes in their life, myself included, right? So I want to say thank you again for you joining us, taking time out of your Sunday to be with us in the studio. And I want to thank our listeners as well for tuning in week in, week out, every single Monday. You just heard another episode of the $1 Million Mind Podcast. I'm your guy, Kai Speaks. We are out.